By the end of 2012, there were over 93 million private cars in China, yet only 1 in 100 of these has a car child seat fitted. This is despite the fact that 18,500 children under the age of 14 died in traffic accidents last year. That's over 50 a day, making this the leading cause of death for this age group. Despite having less than half the number of cars that the US does, 3 times as many Chinese children die in car accidents. The World Health Organization says proper use of adequate child seats can cut such deaths by 70% and of course greatly reduce injuries. And ironically, nearly a third of all child car seats in the world are made here in China. Still, according to a survey cited in the London Times, most Chinese people believe, wrongly, that the safest place for a child in a car is in an adult's arms. But now China's health ministry aims to change that mindset. A campaign starting at the end of this year will encourage the use of child seats. The idea is to start by convincing drivers in the more developed cities of Beijing, Shanghai and Shenzhen, and then roll out the concept nationwide. But in a country where, despite fines for not complying, millions of drivers and passengers don't even wear safety belts, can such a campaign work? Why do net users feel that Chinese drivers are so reluctant to install child seats in their cars? Well, to hear what's being said online, let's now join our researcher, Esther Dung, in the newsroom. OK, Esther, could you first give us some sort of idea of what net users actually know about these child seats at all?
Well, I have to say the answer in some cases is very little. In fact, some confess to never have heard of them until now. This poster, 不停霸道, is one of them. I didn't even know such a thing existed until I saw the online discussions about this topic. And I think that I should point out that it's not only the national campaign you mentioned which has sparked discussions of child seats. Another catalyst has been a hit reality TV show, Daddy, Where Are We Going? We've mentioned this show before on China Take. It involves 5 celebrity dads and their young kids traveling around the country together to complete various tasks. Now, in one early episode, a number of viewers point out that only one of the 5 fathers, who actually comes from Taiwan, put his child, in his case a 4-year-old son, in a child safety seat.
Well, those other 4 fathers certainly aren't in a minority, it would appear, here on the mainland anyway. As I mentioned earlier, only 1% of Chinese drivers actually have a child or booster seat installed in their car. So what's the normal procedure for carrying a child in the other 99% of cars?
Well, on most occasions, toddlers or young children simply sit in seats just as adults do. And I'm afraid in a lot of cases that means without any safety belt and very often in the front. If they are very young, infants say, they are just held by an adult in their arms. Now, China Business Times newspaper cites a rough survey carried out by its reporters. They simply observed cars arriving at a randomly chosen elementary school gate in the Xicheng district of Beijing. Of 30 also cars arriving at the school one Friday morning, not one have a child safety seat fitted. What's more, they noticed that most of the children were actually sitting in the front passenger seat as well. In response, a net user called Luoli has this to say. Lots of Chinese parents insist that holding their kids in their arms in the car is the safest way, but the facts are it most definitely is not safe at all.
So I guess it's fair to say that it's really a lack of awareness amongst Chinese parents that leads to the low rates of use of car child seats. Would the general opinion online agree with that?
Oh yeah, sure. And I've seen a number of posters who attribute this to the lack of relevant education Chinese people receive in school. 成军管如生 says bluntly, we don't have much in the way of health and safety education in our schools. I have to say both Hong Kong and Taiwan do a far better job in this respect than mainland China. But a certain number of posters point to some other reasons. This poster on Sina.com points out that it isn't always possible to comply, even if you want to. Currently in China, cars sold for under about $16,000 don't even have the option to install a child car safety seat. The others feel that the price may also play a role, like this Beijing-based net user who says, my teacher bought a child car safety seat the other day. I have to say, I'd consider it a luxury item rather than a necessity. It's so expensive. Finally, plenty of posters point out that the lack of legislation leads people to presume it can't be that dangerous not to use one. Here's a typical comment on this. In other countries, if drivers carry kids without putting them into a child safety seat, they will be heavily fined.
Okay, finally, Esther, now that the authorities have moved forward to at least encourage the use of these child car seats, do net users welcome the change?
Oh yes, based on what I've seen, the majority of net users view this as a good start. But at the same time, many point out there's still a long way to go. I've seen so many posters who've called for legislation as opposed to just a promotion campaign. Xie Weilie says, currently, we have no traffic safety laws specifically for kids. Without legislation, it's not going to be easy to encourage the use of these seats. Finally, many posters also highlight another issue, at least affecting seats sold on the domestic market. While seats made for export, of course, have to conform to safety standards in the regions they are going to, the situation isn't so clear here. So I've seen plenty of calls for an urgent tightening up of regulations on the child safety seat manufacturing industry. I'll finish up with this take on iPhone.com. We have dozens of companies making such seats, and their prices range from a few dollars up to thousands of dollars. And of course, the quality varies a lot. There are few standards in this industry here, so it's difficult for customers to choose.
Okay, thanks for that, Esther. And that was China Tech researcher Esther Dong with some of the online reaction there to new government plans to promote and encourage the use of child car seats in China. Next up on China Tech, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.